All right. Welcome, everybody, to the RoundTable. I'm your host, G Funky Boxing of HCP. Joined, as always, by the other homeboys from HCP, Maestro A of Maestro A Boxing here on YouTube, D Style Boxing of D Style Boxing here on YouTube as well. And we have a special guest tonight, Miss Rebecca Ruber. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of the conversation.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you. How you guys doing? You guys doing all right? I got to ask the ladies first, and I'm a gentleman. Ladies first, all right?
Chilling like a villain. Ready to get this party started.
All right. Make sure you guys come in here. You hit the like button. Don't forget that. That's the best way to help the channel. You want to support HCP? Just hit that like button. That's all you got to do.
I just want to let everybody know I sent the memo out. I said, everybody wear white. Milk Card didn't get the memo. I don't know why, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's all good. We're going to roll anyway without it, So, yeah, the RoundTable. So let's go ahead and we're going to be joined by a few other guests as well in the second hour. But for right now, we're going to cook on some topics here. Let's talk about the weekend's fights. We got some fights coming up this weekend, I believe, on DAZN, right? Or am I wrong?
No, it's on DAZN, live from Leeds in Yorkshire in North England.
Yeah, there we go. We got location and everything, man. Thank you, Maestro. Yeah, we got the rematch between Warrington and Lara, which was a really good fight the first time. Also, Katie Taylor versus Han is on that card as well. So let's go ahead and talk about the Katie Taylor and Han matchup first. Milkar, I'm going to send it over to you, man. What do you think, man? What's your prediction on that fight?
Well, women's boxing is always interesting because when you have a super talented female fighter, oftentimes the skill gap is just enormous between her and everybody else. And Katie Taylor fits that mold. Layla Ali fit that mold. Christy Martin definitely fit that mold. And Amanda Serrano also fits that mold, So I'm expecting a victory by Katie Taylor. She's also the A side, clearly. She gets paid more than a lot of the men who actually fight under the Matchroom banner, believe it or not. She's got a huge fan base out there in England and in Ireland, and I expect a solid victory from her. I feel that the Pursuit wins actually proved a lot. She's not only a boxer, but she's also super tough. And toughness is what Han, the French opponent, is going to be bringing. And because obviously the skill gap is in favor of Katie Taylor. And Katie Taylor's proven that she can deal with a tough opponent. So I'm expecting a win by Katie Taylor. Again, the A side and the star, quite possibly of this entire card.
No, you're right. She's a big face in women's boxing, and we all know that women's boxing they need big faces. They need more eyes to watch these fights. So I'm gonna hand it over to our special guest, Rebecca. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this fight this weekend?
So, to be honest with you, I had to do some research on Jennifer Han because I hadn't really heard of her before, but from my research, I see that her father is a master at combat sports. Her whole family has been in martial arts. She started boxing at the age of 16. So she does, and at the age of 38 now, she's her whole life been involved in combat sports. So she's very smart. She has a background in kinesiology. But statistically wise, you have to understand she's a few years older than Katie Taylor, which does play a factor. But more specifically, Han, the last fight she had, she's only fought once in the past 3 years. And she's going up 2 weight divisions to fight Katie Taylor, who is currently in her prime. So she kind of has a lot of odds stacked against her. But and at the same time, too, I think that Katie Taylor has had a few opponents that have shown that she's not untouchable per se. So I think that it will be a good fight. But I don't think Han has a style that's so different or significant that would be a threat to Taylor's undefeated record.
Yes, well said. I want to give a shout out to my main man, Punch Drunk Boxing El adobo, el sazón of the YTBC says, saludos, mi hermanos y hermanas. Serrano versus Taylor, 7-figure fighters. Let's show love to our queens. Yeah, it's a huge fight if they can get that fight together and get it going, you know. D-Style, my main man. What are your thoughts on this fight, man?
Well, first of all, El Paso stand up. That's where Han is from. You know, look, she is a really good fighter, but the problem is that, first of all, she's a career featherweight, and she only has one knockout. I don't know if you guys know this. For those that don't know, Katie Taylor is the lightweight champion of the world. That is almost 10 pounds higher in those weight classes. That's a big deal, right? And we're talking about, you know, I saw somebody put she's overrated. Overrated according to who? She's a gold medalist as high as you can go. She's the champion, the woman of her division. There's nothing else above her to rate. There's nobody else to rate. Not in the amateurs and not in the pros. Right? Now, Han is tough. I'm going to be cheering for her, pulling for her. I hope she pulls off the upset of the decade. But I think her hands are going to be a little too full. I think it's too tall of a task, too big of a challenge. I think I'm hesitating saying it, but I got to say it. Katie Taylor's going to win this fight, and I think she might stop Khan. Khan is also coming off, I believe, 2 back-to-back pregnancies as well. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be tough, you know what I mean? But hey, credit to her for taking this fight. You know, she wants to conquer another division. But this is a hell of an accomplishment if she could pull it off, you know. And shout out to her family, you know, big martial arts family, and you know, love the whole family, great family and stuff. But I think Katie Taylor's going to be a little too big of a task, in my opinion.
Can I just quickly say something, G Funky?
Go right on ahead.
I misspoke earlier. I believe I called Han French. That's actually the Blonde Bomber's opponent is French. Han is from El Paso. I misspoke earlier, but I do also want to say something real quick about my man Punch's comment. I think that it should be a 7-figure fight. Unfortunately, though, I don't think it would be a 7-figure fight in the U.S. And Amanda Serrano, unfortunately, is far from being a 7-figure fighter. She made $44,000 just recently fighting on Jake Paul's undercard. The only reason she made more than that is because apparently Jake Paul gave her a $500,000 bonus. She said multiple times that she doesn't get paid very well as a female fighter. She said it at the press conference for that particular card. And I think it's just symptomatic of what's wrong with female boxing, at least in the United States. Since Christy Martin's left the sport, it's just been way bigger in Europe. And, you know, that goes for Katie, that goes for Lucia Riker, that goes for Cecilia Brækhus. I could go on, but yeah, she's far from a 7-figure fighter here in the United States.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's a tough market for the women, especially here in the U.S. I want to give a shout out to my homeboy Black and Brown from my hometown, Sacramento, California. Also to In the Ring with Christine. We were over there yesterday on our channel for Women Crushing it Wednesday. If you didn't catch it, go back and catch that right after the show here. Great show we had. Great conversation. She says, Han, I believe, is Filipino. She has a sister and brother that used to box. Yeah, you know, like much like Rebecca said, I don't really know much about her. You know, the little bit that I did see, yeah, I think it's going to be definitely a tough task. I think Katie Taylor is one of the best, if not the best, woman boxer in the game right now. You know, I know there's people that will say, of course, the Shields, even Serrano, they'll say that she's probably best, or super bad Estrada down there in the lower weight classes. But I just see something a little bit different in Taylor, just from my eyes, you know. And yeah, it's going to definitely be a tough task. I believe if she can tough it out, you know, come forward and try to apply some good pressure, and hang in there. I mean, you just never know down the stretch. You know, we saw that with the main event of this card. So we know anything can happen in a fight, but I just think at the end of the day, skills will definitely pay those bills, and we will see Katie Taylor have her hand raised in the center of the ring when this one is all said and done. And to credit to my man Punch Drunk, I want to give a shout out to him for the super chat. And subscribe to Punch Drunk Boxing if you're not subscribed to him. You know, I know he's pushing really hard for the women to get paid, and you know what? We've been doing our part as well, man. We've had a lot of female boxers on HCP shows, and Chrissy Martin is one who's been on our show a lot. And you know, we try our best. You know, it's hard in this market. It really is. You know, it seems like the fans they appeal more to the MMA, women's MMA, than they do the women's boxing. So, you know, we know what that's all about. A lot of them go over there and fight for the money that they get paid over there. So, you know, we just got to keep doing our best and keep grinding, man. You know, go ahead.
I want to say something about that. So I find that interesting because the only reason I'm saying this is there was just a female fighter the other week at a post-fight press conference in the UFC saying she's broke. She got no money. And she said, I'm glad I got this bonus because my fight pay was just going to pay off what I owe the bank and all that. I was negative in my bank. So this is the only reason I got money. And I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot with, I heard some Bellator fighters, not at the female side, but the male side, say they got paid more to be, you know, Jake Paul's sparring partner than they ever have gotten in MMA. Right. So there's a lot of female fighters and male fighters that keep complaining that they don't get paid what boxers get paid. So I think it's an individual thing, you know, and maybe they do it for the extra money or something. But I don't know what Amanda Serrano gets paid to fight in MMA because it's not like she's fighting in the UFC or something like that. She's not even, I don't think she's fighting in Bellator or anything like that. So
I don't think she's fighting in a cage either. Last time I seen it was a ring that she was fighting in. So
well, you could do MMA in a ring as well, but in the US, it's known more for to be in a cage. But I just don't. I don't know if she's making more money doing that stuff. I just don't. I don't know what they pay Clarissa Shields, you know, to fight in her MMA fight. Maybe for her they did. It's like a league. They probably did offer her more money. But I'm just not sure if that's the right answer for all female fighters. I think the trajectory is going the positive direction for women, right? Ever since, you know, it was introduced to the Olympics in 2012, and a lot of there's a lot of female fighters that have a lot of exposure in the amateurs, and at least in Europe, you know, like they're making money. Because I mean, Katie Taylor's already made over $1 million. No UFC MMA fighter, you know, female fighters making that. So I just think like if we keep promoting, you know, or I should say pushing women's fighting, it couldn't get to that point, you know, and the ceiling I believe is higher than the pay is in MMA. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. And not even Amanda Nunes has come anything close to what Katie Taylor's earned or what Layla Ali earned or what Cecilia Braekhus earned or what, you know, any of the top female fighters earned. But again, these are all European-based fighters, except for obviously the older generation. The new generation is all out of Europe.
Yeah, I just want to read some comments here real quickly. Punch Drunk here says, I feel the community of boxing should show her support that she deserves to get up to that purse that she deserves. Her skill set is 7 figures. Hardy and Serrano packed MSG, and they gave them peanuts. Yeah, it's tough for them, man. Wow, got some sad breaking news here reported from our friend Christine. She says Jeanette, I believe that was the female boxer that was in the hospital over the weekend.
Kendra,
says she has passed away. Wow, may God rest her soul and bring peace to her family at this time.
I wanted to say something about that really quick.
Was it COVID?
No, it was from
no, that's from a fight, brother. She got injured in fight.
Oh shit, I wasn't keeping track of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think she was really young too, just still a teenager, I believe.
Oh wow, that's terrible.
Wow. Yeah.
No, COVID is on my mind because one of my favorite musicians, Adalberto Alvarez, died of COVID just like 2 days ago, I think. So
man.
Yeah. It's
Now, I want to comment about, I mean, I feel where Punch Drunk is coming from. Look, if it was up to me, all fighters would make millions of dollars, but unfortunately, that's just not how it works. I get, let's say Amanda Serrano and Heather Hardy packed the Hulu theater. It wasn't a big house. It was a little house. Let's say they did. Right. I would like to know what the gate is. I doubt it's, $1 million a piece. You know what I mean? Like I just should Amanda be making more than 45,000 a fight? Absolutely. Now $1 million, unfortunately, skill set doesn't determine that. Jake Paul isn't making what he's making because he's the most skilled fighter in the world. You know what I mean? We could say that's wrong, right, whatever it is, but what you generate, how many pay-per-views you sell, what your ratings are, how many butts you put in seats, what the gate is, that determines what you make at the end of the day. Katie Taylor's making what she's making, not because she's skilled, because there's been a lot of skilled women fighters. It's because she's getting support in the UK, and she's generating that money. That's why she's making what she's making.
Absolutely right, D-Stel. And you hit the nail right on the head. In boxing, unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, actually, it just is what it is. The majority of people's purses comes off of what they do in terms of television revenue. The house is a smaller proportion of the pay. So even if they sold out the theater,
you're from New York, Amilcar. You can't forget the name of the theater.
No, I wasn't forgetting the name of the theater. I know it's the Hulu theater, but the funny thing is, they change the names of these shits all the time. Like,
yes, they do.
I can't keep up with the corporate naming of these stadiums. Okay, look.
No, you know what? They did the same thing here with my Kings, man. We went from Arco Arena, and then within the last 2 years we were there, the name changed 3 times, man. It's crazy.
I mean, at least the MSG keeps the same name, but yeah, the Hulu theater has changed. All I'm saying though is that you can sell out an arena, or in this case, a big theater. But even if you do that, to get to 7 figures, you need to be selling pay-per-views or doing huge ratings on television.
I'm going to surprise you right now, Milcar.
Yeah.
You know what? Devin Haney don't generate the money they're giving him. So they're going to give him money like that to give it to Serrano.
No, I understand that. But you know what the thing is, too, about that D-Style? Eddie Hearn, when he made that investment in Devin Haney, was investing in a guy pretty much at the beginning of the ascent of his career, as an investment and hopefully something that would turn out to be a big deal. Amanda Serrano's had a great career, but let's face facts. The majority of her career is in the rearview mirror. It's not ahead of her. So there, but I see your point. I just want to give some context to it.
I got you.
Let's get Rebecca in here. What do you think? Is Serrano deserving? You think she could get 7 figures eventually?
I definitely know she can get 7 figures eventually. I just think that just like any sport, and especially with boxing, you have those time periods where boxing is very popular. You have some name fighters, and then there are years where you don't really hear about boxing. And I feel like there was that time period where no one really talked about it. And I feel like boxing is back on the rise again. And I think that the women fighters are kind of the forefront of that. You have amazing fighters like Michaela Mayer out there. You have Clarissa Shields. You have Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor. You have Jessica McCaskill as well. That's actually someone that I think Katie Taylor should fight next. I think that would be a great rematch. That's just my personal opinion. But in regards to Amanda Serrano, to be honest with you, the Jake Paul fight, the only reason why I want to watch that was to watch Amanda Serrano. And that was a tweet that I put out. And I got a few hundred likes on it, a few retweets off it, because a lot of people agreed. People that are true boxing fans that have been following the Serrano sisters' career in general, were really excited to see her on a big stage like this. And I think a lot of viewers that are true boxing fans, if they were going to pay for that fight, it was to watch Amanda Serrano. So I think she definitely deserves more money.
Here's what I'll ask the panel real quick. For those that know me, I've said this before, like, I'm a pretty big tennis fan. I have been for a long time, back to the Andre Agassi's and Pete Sampras days. And I usually do head out to the U.S. Open here in New York City, in Flushing and Queens every year. I haven't this year, but I'll try to get out. Now, look, I'm going to name you the top 5 highest paid tennis players right now. Number 1, Roger Federer. Number 2, Naomi Osaka. Number 3, Serena Williams. Number 4, Novak Djokovic. number 5, Rafael Nadal. So if you were paying attention, right, the 2 top female players are higher paid than the than the second and third highest male players. Why is that? Is it because they deserve it? It is because they deserve it. They deserve it. We live in a capitalist economy. We don't live, unfortunately, in an economy that pays people just based on their skills or whatnot. Like we don't live in the former Soviet Union where, you know, the top hockey player made the same as the top boxer who made the same as whatever. And there's a standard pay scale for athletes. The fact is, those 2 women get paid more than almost all of the men, actually all of the men except for Roger Federer, because they sell tickets and because people pay to watch them and watch them on TV. It's that simple. And we can discuss different aspects of different things, but until men, and especially women, are willing to watch female boxing as much as they watch male boxing, like they do in tennis, this is going to be a forever issue and a forever problem. It's that simple.
Yeah, I agree. I want to read this comment here. I believe in boxing, your value is what they are willing to pay you for your for that particular event. Mikey Garcia got $7 million versus Jesse Vargas. I think they need to invest in Taylor Serrano. I agree. Since you brought up Taylor versus Serrano, that's the question that I want to ask the panel next. Now we've heard talks about it possibly happening soon. So let's go around and let's hear what you guys think about who would win that potential fight. I'm going to start with ladies first. Rebecca, what do you think?
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy one to lay down on me right away. But to be honest with you, they're both very aggressive fighters. They throw some power punches and they both will go towards their opponent. So it'd be very interesting. I think that fight would depend on who sets the pace first. It's hard to say, but I love my girl Amanda Serrano. I've been following her since I was 18 years old, but I would probably have to give it to Katie Taylor. I'd have to probably give it to Katie Taylor. And that's saying something because I feel like I've talked about this before. I think that the way Puerto Rican fighters are, they fight with such heart and such passion. And I love watching Serrano fight. I think that she's a phenomenal fighter. I think that she puts all of her fighters through hell every time we see her in the ring. But this is going to be a competition that Serrano's never really had before. And Katie Taylor is not someone to go easy on. So I think Taylor would have it, to be honest.
Yeah. You always got to be honest, when it comes to boxing.
Unfortunately,
unfortunately, some people don't like honesty, but it is what it is. That's what they're going to get every time they come to the round table. I'll tell you that. D-Style, what are your thoughts, man, on that potential fight happening?
Look, me personally, that is probably the biggest fight to make in women's boxing right now. There's some other really good fights. Some people talk about Katie Taylor versus Carissa Shields. I don't think that's a match I want to see. Shields is too big for Katie Taylor. I mean, that's kind of like talking about Lomachenko fighting like Jermall Charlo. That's what that sounds like to me when people bring that up. But this is, to me, a fight that needs to happen. Like this is a fight that we already had, by the way, and then the pandemic kind of ruined it. What people don't realize, though, is that, and I just recently realized this, believe it or not, Amanda's actually younger than Katie Taylor by about 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? She's actually younger. Now, that doesn't always mean anything because the miles on the car are indicated by how much you drove it, not how long it's been there, right? So Amanda's been boxing professionally a lot longer than Katie Taylor, and in the pro ranks, you box more time, and it's a little more brutal, I would say, than the amateurs. Me personally, I feel that Katie Taylor would pull it off. I do believe Amanda would give her a run for her money. I do. But I think, again, this will be Amanda moving up, by the way. I'm assuming this fight would happen at 135. You know, Amanda's moved up several divisions, and I think that will play some factor there, especially with their styles. But the Katie Taylor could fight. You know what I mean? And she has a hell of a hook, and I think it will be close. But it would be like a 8. Well, I was going to say 8-4, but those only 10 rounds. It'll be like a 6-4 kind of decision for me. Close, tough to say. Now, people are saying Shields, Marshall. Okay, cool. I don't think it's bigger than Katie Taylor, the highest paid athlete. Find me one higher paid athlete for the females, please. Okay. And Amanda Serrano, who's conquered. She's been the champion in 7 divisions. I'm sorry. Savannah Marshall, Shields. I don't think it's a bigger fight, respectfully.
Yeah. Milcar, what do you think, bro?
Well, by highest paid athlete, D-Style, I'm assuming you mean boxer, right? Because Naomi Osaka makes over $60 million a year off tennis. Okay, I just wanted to... For now.
Who knows what Katie Taylor can make?
Over $60 million a year. I say it all the time to parents who ask me what sport they should put their daughters in. It's tennis all day.
Are those winnings, though, or is that including sponsorships?
Definitely 7 figures in sponsorships. I think the 8-figure total includes the earnings, and the 8 figures include sponsorships. But yeah, anyways, I digress.
I don't know what Katie Taylor makes in sponsorships, so
it's not as much as now.
No, I'm just saying that for now. You know, we'll see when they put her on pay-per-view, right? When she's on pay-per-view against Serrano in the UK. Then we'll talk.
Okay. Well, I agree with you. And I also agree with Rebecca. I have Katie Taylor winning this fight for a number of reasons. Yes, she's technically older, but she's had way fewer fights. And to me, with all due respect to Amanda Serrano, and with no due respect to her clown ball trainer, I see her as kind of being on the decline right now. In this last fight that she had, she took on essentially an overweight super bantamweight, if we're going to be honest. And she promised a brutal, spectacular KO, and she didn't get it. And she actually got touched up quite a bit by a smaller fighter. And as you said, D-Style, she's going to be stepping up in weight to fight a bigger fighter. Yes, you know, Katie Taylor is the same height, I think, but she is bigger. She's also a very active fighter. And in these 2-minute rounds, like, activity really, really counts a lot, actually. So, you know, I'm definitely going with Katie Taylor, because Katie Taylor has not been relying on knocking people out as a pathway to victory. So Amanda Serrano has, especially more recently in her career. And like I said, she didn't get the knockout against an undersized opponent in her last fight. So that I'm taking the bigger fighter, I'm taking the fresher fighter, and I'm taking the fighter that's consistently been winning the same way, essentially.
Got you. Yeah, man. You know, my policy has always been like this, man. I don't really like to give predictions on fights that aren't actually going to happen, or at least not official. But this one here, man, it's a tough one.
But now you have to, because you asked 3 people to give it to you. So you have to give it to them.
Yeah, both women really, really good in their respective divisions, and both very skilled. Although in my opinion, very different in styles, you know? So to make it real brief, because if it does happen, believe me, I will be making a prediction video on that. And I will be breaking down what I see will happen. But the saying goes like this in boxing, you know, a good big fighter always beats a good small fighter, you know? And I would have to agree with that in this case. I would have to roll with Taylor. I would favor her definitely. But like I said, I'm going to have to, again, look at both fighters and look at their previous fights. Yeah, I might see something different. Who knows? But as of right now, definitely going to favor Taylor as of right now. Great fight, though. I hope that fight really does happen, though, because I think it's a fight that needs to happen for women's boxing. No doubt about it. So let's go ahead and move on to the main event for this weekend. Let's get some predictions on the Warrington versus Lara rematch. Since D-Style's over there shadow boxing, I'm gonna throw the mic to him first, man. What do you think, man? What do you think of this rematch?
You know, I honestly believe that Warrington is taking this rematch because they feel he could fight a fight on the back foot, you know, with a lot of movement, just like he did against Kid Gallahan. And even if they don't feel he wanted the scorecards, he'll get a decision over there. And this is gonna sound crazy. I'm sorry. I saw Milcar, you know, do this, you know, to me, but it's okay. I think Warrington will make some adjustments. I think he'll be on the back foot, use some lateral movement, avoid a slugfest at all costs, get some 1-2s and stick and move. 1-2, stick and move. That's going to be his game plan. He may take some middle rounds off. There'll be some scary moments. But, you know, just like, you know, we've seen it before, like with Horn, right? After he got stopped by Zerafa, came back, switched up the game plan a little bit, had some scary moments, but he won, right? I kind of feel that's what's going to happen here. I think he's going to make some adjustments. If they didn't feel at least somewhat confident that they could make the right adjustments to win the rematch, they wouldn't have taken the immediate rematch. That's how I feel about it. But Amilcar, I want to know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, look, Lara did something that I've done to these fools on YouTube that don't come correct. Like he took his soul, man.
Like me?
Not you. You're on team HCP, man. But when I go onto these other channels where it's a free for all and people don't come correct, like I pull that skeleton out, man, Mortal Kombat style.
No adjustment. You don't think he can make any adjustments to perform better?
I'll tell you why he's taking this fight. Because he thinks he has to. He doesn't want to be Amir Khan after Bradis Prescott. His fans won't allow it. You know, he was utterly embarrassed. He got totally destroyed. Pardon me?
I was saying Throwback Thursday with that one there.
He got, you know, Amir Khan never lived down the Prescott fight. And the reason is he never sought the rematch. You know, he didn't do it. He didn't do what Lennox Lewis did every time he lost. He avenged the loss, and he avenged it brutally. He didn't do that.
Salgado, right? It's another one.
Yeah. I mean, look, he got his soul taken from him, man. I mean, he was finished in that fight. And the narrative out there in the UK is this, oh, he tried to fight like a Mexican and he has to box the Mexican using the sweet science. Okay. I mean, last time I checked, this guy was the Leeds Warrior who went blood and guts with people. That's what he does. He got utterly outboxed by Kid Galahad. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And he tried to do the Leeds Warrior thing against an Aztec Warrior, and he got his ass kicked. And
let me say this.
The minute Lara, who has tremendously heavy hands, you see, what they didn't believe was that Lara's knockouts were legit. Because if you look at Lara's record, it's all knockouts going into that fight. It's all knockouts. They're like, well, you know, he's doing that in Mexico. He's doing that to Mexicans. Those don't count. Come on. This is England. This is the Leeds Warrior. He's going to be able to deal with that. And he did the Leeds Warrior thing, and it didn't work. And he tried to do the boxing on the back foot, and that didn't work. And it just got worse and worse and worse for him. Look, he's going to be fighting scared. We know that. But the minute he tries to eat, the minute he eats a right hand or one of those brutal left hooks to the body that he had no answer for the entire fight, he was getting hit to the head. He was getting folded over anytime he tried to protect the head. It was embarrassing that this guy was a world champion fighting a guy that he was just supposed to like dominate. Anyhow, I'm going on long here. I'm going to wrap this up. I got Lara by KO, and the This is the end of Josh Warrington
Whoa,
as a premier British fighter. You guys also forget that was his Matchroom debut, right? He left Matchroom, he went over to Queensbury, then he re-signed with Matchroom, and that happened. And you know what? The Zhu Can fight ain't on the cards because Zhu Can just lost. You know, so you know he doesn't know what's going on in Josh Warrington world. Like everything's collapsing. Everything's collapsing.
I love Lara, but I do believe Warrington can make some adjustments and win that fight.
I'm going to read this comment here from our homeboy Nando Llamas. He says, "This is Forrest Mosley. Lara is all wrong." That's another throwback there, even further with the Forrest Mosley fight.
Well, how about Forrest?
Forrest Mayorga? You don't think you just said it yourself in your breakdown. They underestimated him. They thought he beat a bunch of taxi cab drivers in Mexico. They're going to be ready this time. They're ready this time. He's going to make some adjustments. Look, this is a dude with an atrocious knockout ratio. For him to stand there with a dude with heavy hands was dumb. He didn't do that against Gallahan because Gallahan could punch. Okay? He's going to fight a more defensive fight, a lateral movement fight. I'm not saying he's going to run around the ring like Reagan down now. Like I'm not saying that. But he's going to do some stick and move. You know what I mean?
Easy with the Reagan, though.
I'll say this, man. And D-Style says they weren't ready for the first fight. Well, they better get like the Temptations. Get ready, because here I come. That's what Lara's going to say this Saturday.
Before you go to Rebecca, let me just say this. To quote Mr. Boxing Today, too, great, YouTube channel on here, great heavyweight boxing talk. There's nothing, all right, that will change your mind and get your head straight like a good ass whooping. And that's what happened. A good ass whooping, all right? Well, that's the last time he'll overlook somebody. I think he's going to win this fight.
I love that. My grandfather used to say the same thing sometimes when a fighter gets dropped early. He say, "Hey, sometimes you need a good slap to wake you up," you know? But Rebecca, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, I'll go next.
That was like a great transition into what I was going to say, because Warrington, I think, is going to come back with a lot of vengeance. And I think that that shock was a huge loss for his fans back at home. And I think that at the same time, the first fight that he had, for him to win wasn't going to be the biggest deal. But at this point now, for him to win, it's going to matter, because it's either he wins and then he could possibly have that rematch against Kid Galahad, or if he loses, it's looking like that rematch is not going to happen and it might be the end of his career. So he has a lot on the line this time around. And I think as a coach, I'm hoping that they work more on his inside boxing, because I don't think this time around Warrington's going to be able to, for a whole 12 rounds, be able to just jab and do outside boxing. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Lara's going to come in with a lot more confidence than he did the first fight. And he's just going to keep hitting him to the body, hit him to the body. He's going to keep breaking him down. And Warrington, just hopefully this fight camp, him and his fight team have come up with a better plan to counter those punches and be able to get the win this time around.
I agree, Rebecca, and we learned two things too from that fight. Lara can take Warrington's best shots. Mm-hmm. Warrington cannot take Lara's shots to the body or to the head. He just can't. Another thing too is Warrington avoided Kid Galahad like the plague.
That's what he needs to do.
He avoided him. He avoided Kid Galahad like the plague. But now all of a sudden, the Galahad has an IBF championship. By the way, the championship that he lost, right? I guess now maybe he'll go after Galahad. I want to ask D-Style this though. What happened to Charlie Edwards after he fought JC Martinez? Did he make adjustments? No. Did he come back? Did he learn anything? Or did he just swerve him? Did he just swerve him and go somewhere else?
He curled up somewhere.
Yeah,
but he didn't lose though. Technically speaking, shout out to Mauricio Suleiman. Right, he didn't lose. He made an adjustment after the fight and it got overturned. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what he did.
My point is that was another one where, look at this Mexican. These Mexicans, they only know how to fight going forward. They don't know how to box. They're just fighters. Well, guess what? JC Martinez went in there, the pure scientific boxer, got folded up, okay? It was a no contest, as D-Sal said, because Suleiman went in there and saved his ass, okay? Yeah. but he never wanted he didn't take the rematch because he knows what time it is. Josh Warrington knows what time it is. Josh Warrington is doing this for his fans. He's doing this for his fans.
Let me go ahead and chime in here as well. But it's all good. I want to give a shout out to Nando Llamas for the $4.99 super chat. He says, "Yo, love the debate. HCP for life." I like it, man. Always appreciate the support, man. But look, I'm going to say this.
Callahan fight's a little debatable, no? Like a little bit?
No,
a little bit.
I'll say this,
if you live in Leeds, it's debatable. If you live in Leeds, yeah.
hometown cooking, you know. But I'm gonna say this, man. Look, I've never, and this is just my opinion. A lot of people that are listening and watching right now might disagree, but this is just G Funk's opinion. I've never been impressed with Warrington. I'm sorry, man. He just never really did anything. He just never wowed me. Nothing like that. He just been like, he's all right. You know, like these guys, he all right. You know, like that's how I feel about Warrington. You know, and I think I do agree with what Nando said earlier. I feel like Lara is just wrong for this guy. You know, yeah, I agree with you, D-Style. I think Warrington is definitely going to come out and utilize some movement, try to stay on the outside. Because they feel like Lara is just a come forward guy, you know, probably won't be able to keep up with him for a few rounds or whatever. But I think eventually, I think that pressure is going to get to him, man, because I don't think Warrington is good enough to avoid him or to avoid these kind of exchanges or avoid those body shots for 12 rounds. He might be able to do it for, 4 or 5 rounds or so. But if he can't hurt this guy, make him respect his power, say, you know what, I can't just come in, right? If he can make him stop in his tracks a little bit, then he might have some action. I just don't think he can do that, man. I really don't. And I think that Lara is going to go in there, apply a lot of pressure, and I think he's going to get to him late, man. I think he's going to get to him late. I don't know if he's going to stop him this time, but I think it's going to turn into a one-sided beatdown towards the end of this fight, man. That's just the way I see it. And again, I've never been impressed with Warrington, but if he does put on a boxing clinic like a lot of us think he might try to do, he'll definitely change my mind with his actions in the ring. But as of right now, that's what I see. Anybody else want to chime in anything about this fight before?
Just really quick.
It's all in me, yeah.
Just really quick. They're going to have the ref on their side. Every time he gets close, he's going to hold Lara. They're not going to warn him for it. They're going to break it up, and Lara's going to have to start all over again. I think that's the plan. I think that's what they're going to do. Because I agree with what Rebecca said. He does have to work on his inside boxing, and people forget. Like, everyone thinks the term boxing only applies to guys that fight on the outside. No, you have to learn how to box on the inside as well. But he's not going to have to in this case. Just to, like, did Joshua, we just had, Alvis, on the show a couple weeks ago, said Joshua can't fight worth the lick basically on the inside. You know what I mean? That's where he had the advantage. But how did they counter that? Well, they had a ref that wasn't going to warn him for all the holding. That's the answer. That's what they're going to do. I'm telling you right now, Lara has everything working against him going into this fight.
I hear you, man. Maestro, anything before we head into the next topic?
No, I agree with D-Style's assessment about Anthony Joshua for sure. The same thing happened with Deontay Wilder in his rematch with Tyson Fury. I mean, anytime Tyson Fury was leaning in and trying to work on the inside, as soon as Deontay even reached to tie him up, Kenny Bayless was slapping Tyson Fury on the back and forcing them to separate. But I agree with those who think that Josh Warrington just isn't that guy. He's not that guy. He can try to hold as much as he wants. Dude's going to get ripped to the body just like he did last time. And the unfortunate thing for me, if you're a fan of Josh Warrington, is according to him, the only reason he lost was because of the pandemic. And, he didn't take Lara seriously.
It was Corona. She had Corona. It was weak.
Did he say Corona?
No, I'm just.
No, I don't think he said that. Because I'm like, bro, I thought you were a fucking world champion. Aren't you supposed to take all your fights seriously at that level? That's what I thought. So I'm sorry, that's not an excuse. And the fact that you're making it excuse to me speaks volumes about who you are as a championship level fighter. Number two, again, he's blaming the pandemic. Well, didn't Lara have to deal with the pandemic? I mean, everybody who fought coming off the pandemic was dealing with the pandemic. So again, when I look at the psychology, of Warrington, again, if you're a fan, it's got to be a little bit troubling if you're actually going to be honest about it. I want to shout out my brother Joe Habib real quick.
Yeah, Joe Habib joining us live now from Ringside Reporter. Also got a super sticker. Also got a super sticker here from Andres Rodriguez, $1.99. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate the support all the way over in Portugal, man.
Yeah, those are euros, baby.
Thing, man.
It's not dollars, it's euros.
And look, the big sister of HCP drops a 20-pounder on G-Funk. It says, gotta support my peeps. I'm traveling for a long weekend. Wish I could have come on. Oh, anytime you're welcome. That's In the Ring with Christine. Make sure you guys subscribe to her channel as well.
Joby, if I need help, brother, I need help. You know you got Warrington winning, right? Warrington's winning the fight, right?
Yeah, what are you doing on this weekend?
D-Style, I'm surprised. I'm surprised, man. Let's take a trip down memory lane to that Galahad fight. Why did he have so much problems in that Galahad fight? Because Galahad got inside and he couldn't deal with him inside. What did Lara do in the first fight? He got inside and he couldn't deal with him on the inside. Now, people talk about how great of a boxer Warrington is, and he's a very good fighter. He can move well, but he's not as fast on his feet as people really think, because guys catch up to him. Guys are able to get in his chest, and he runs out of ideas and he tries to fight them off. But he's not able to shorten up his punches effectively on the inside. He loops them, and guys are punching. A guy who can handle himself on the inside like Lara and like Galahad, they're able to get inside those looping shots of his, and they break him down, right? And he doesn't like it to the body. No one likes it to the body, but he especially doesn't like it to the body. So I think he's going to go to sleep again in this fight. I think he's going to get stopped again. He's
going to hold him. He's going to hold him. He's going to hold him when they're on the inside. The ref's going to be on the side.
He's going to utilize the clinch. That's what
I give the GoFundMe to the ref too. Like it's
hardest thing in the sport of boxing to do is be an effective inside fighter, and that isn't just offensively, but defensively, body positioning, making yourself a compact target. And Warrington just doesn't know how to do all those things on the inside.
I have to agree with you, Beeb. I just think his style is all wrong for Warrington, man. I just do. We are also being joined now from Dave from the 408, my brother from NorCal. I'm a little disappointed in you, brother. You decided to come on with the 49ers hat when we got the Giants in first place in September. I need some Giants hats.
I was looking for my I got a limited edition hat and I couldn't find it. I got the one that says Gigantes and I couldn't find it. And I'm like, damn, I gotta represent, but this is second.
Yeah, but they're a regular season team. They're a regular season team anyway. So
3 championships last 10 years.
I don't know about that. Yeah, I think G-Monkey pointed out 3 championships in 10 years.
Current team.
That's right. So Dave, before we move to the next topic, I want to ask you have any thoughts or prediction for Warrington versus Lara Part 2 this Saturday?
Yeah, I'll cash out you $5 if you pick Lara. I mean Warrington.
Even he's not over pick Lara.
And I have to agree. I think that Lara is all wrong for him, and he should have never have invited Lara to come over the pond to have fought him. And it could very well end up exactly like the first one. I don't think he's going to have learned anything from the first encounter. And so in the second dance, I expect Lara to win again. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be action-packed, though.
You guys are acting like you've never seen a dude get knocked out and come back and win the rematch. Like it's never happened. You know, like Horn didn't beat Serrano on the rematch. It happened.
It happens.
I just don't think it's going to happen.
It's not like I know Amilcar's making it sound like this dude's like Valero or something. No, he's not that big of a puncher. Look at his knockout ratio; it's not that high.
Well, you want to ask somebody about how hard he hits? We got to find Josh Warrington's number real quick.
It's okay.
That dude was hurt into the body.
So let's do this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Look, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Rebecca, you had Lara or Warrington?
I had Lara.
All right, so it's all good. So next week I'll brag that I was right. It's all good.
All right.
It could end
I'm
up
all
being like
alone.
that.
How much is Team Warrington paying you, D-Style? What's going on here? You find out you're getting some backdoor checks on the side here, Daddy.
All right, I'm going to make a
Oh,
prediction
man.
right now, okay? Lada is going to be HCP of the week, just as I thought he was the last time he beat Warrington. Because the
Ooh.
last time he beat Warrington, I was the only one who mentioned him as HCP of the week. So it's going to be 2 times now that Maestro's calling him HCP of the week. I'm just saying that right now.
Well, he will certainly
Panic.
be in the running if he pulls it off once again, you know. So let's go ahead and move to the next topic, which is a good topic, but I'm going to save the best topic of the week for the start of the second hour.
Jake
But
Paul?
no, definitely not that guy.
I thought we were talking about him. What's up?
The second biggest news of the week was Crawford versus Porter's purse bid gets an extension. Now, I believe it was supposed to be tomorrow. Was it? That was the original date. I
Today,
think
it's supposed to be
Oh, was
today.
today. Okay, yeah.
Supposed to
They
be
should have
today.
been counter programming the roundtable right now.
I had
You know
the
what I mean?
calendar set and everything. I was going to take
Because what happened was they're big fans of the roundtable. They wanted to watch the show. What's
That's
up?
right.
What's up? What's up,
Shout
guys?
out to HCP, baby. But yeah, so it gets moved back. So I want to get everyone's reaction to them moving this purse bid back. I'm going to start with Rebecca again, because again, I'm a gentleman. Ladies first, you know. So what are your thoughts about the purse bid being moved a couple weeks from now?
I feel like, honestly, this is the thing that happens, that there are reasons why people stop watching boxing, because it's just so frustrating to be looking forward to something. I mean, I've been waiting to see Crawford fight for a while. I think that him fighting Porter is like the closest thing we can get to a good fight with Crawford at this point. And for it to get pushed back, it's BS. And I think that at this point, if Porter pulls out, you take away his mandatory status. And if Crawford pulls out, then you strip him. I mean, I don't understand at this point, like, why there just has to be all this like dancing around. Like, we just have to get a good fight going. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it's very frustrating to hear. That's for sure, because we're right there on the cusp of getting Crawford into a fight that we all want to see him at, that real big fight that he's been needing at welterweight, and we got to wait a few more weeks to see if it's going to happen, where it's going to happen at. So I'm going to kick it over to the two guys who joined in just recently. But I'm going to start with my main man, Joe Habib. What's your reaction to this news, man?
I'm very pessimistic towards this whole fight happening, and I'll tell you why. I think Al Heyman is in Sean Porter's ear, telling him, hey, why don't you go for Ugas, right? You get the WBA title, and then if you win that fight, guess what we're going to give you right after that? Then we'll give you Errol Spence for his IBF and WBC title, right? And then you can go after Crawford after, right? Here's the good news. If the fight doesn't happen, I feel confident in saying that I think Virgil Ortiz would take the challenge. And that's a great consolation prize, if not even a better fight than Crawford versus Porter in terms of entertainment value. I think Virgil Ortiz will take it to Crawford. I think it'll be an awesome, awesome fight. No disrespect to Porter. I thought Ugas beat him. And if he does take the Ugas fight, it's not etched in stone that he could beat Ugas. So I don't know. I just have a feeling that Porter will withdraw from this purse bid when it's all said and done. That's just my opinion. So this isn't a good sign.
Yeah. In the ring, Christine says Crawford not worried. He is set. He's not worrying, but it's gonna happen. She seems
Christine.
pretty confident, Yeah.
I hope so.
Dave from the 408, man. What is your reaction to this news of the purse bid being moved back?
Yeah, I forgot it was on Thursday. Today, as a matter of fact, highly suspicious. And I got a second Beeb's suspicions. I think that there's something nefarious going on. And it's very likely that Porter is probably going to pull out for an opportunity in his own promotional company. Like we just saw Ugas. That's a rematch that a lot of people would like to see. And why not keep it in-house? We hear it all the time from PBC that they want to keep things in-house. And there probably wouldn't be any stain. And the great thing is that Virgil Ortiz is right there. That's a fight that most likely can be made with the zone, with the relationship with Oscar and Bob. So if we don't get that fight, we could possibly get Virgil Ortiz getting a title shot sooner than later, which is a good thing, in my opinion.
I wouldn't hate that fight.
Yeah, same for me, man. D-Style, what is your news to this? What your reaction to this news here, man?
So I could be wrong, and it's not like I track every purse bid, but I never heard of a purse bid being postponed or delayed, or I just haven't. I never heard of a purse bid being announced that it's going to be like streamed live either. So that it's the whole thing is strange, and I don't know if both teams had some reservations about it being streamed live, because we might see some things that maybe they don't want us to see. And maybe that's why they're wanting to kind of, work a deal behind the scenes. I don't want to say that the fight's not going to happen, because the last time I said that a fight did happen, and that's Canelo Plant. Knock on wood. I'm knocking on it very hard. But I'm not very optimistic about this fight happening. I'm just not. And I'll be honest with you. Look, if it's that difficult to make, you know what? Just do the Ortiz fight. I think that's a great fight. That is a young, undefeated lion right there that wants to take over the pride. And the main lion's Crawford. That is a storyline in the making, a natural one. And it's something that is natural to the sport of boxing. The young, hungry contender challenging, what you could kind of define as an aging, but still relevant and top of his game, champion. And I think that's a fight that I would love to see, So if the Porter fight doesn't happen, I'm not going to lose sleep over it if we get the Ortiz fight. Now, if we don't get it and Crawford fights like Jose Benavidez in a rematch or something like that, then of course I'm going to be disappointed. But I just don't know what other options he has.
Yeah, Maestro. Tell me what you think, man.
Wow, I'm like the black sheep or the contrarian today, because I'm literally just not having it.
Hey, ATP loves contrarians, man.
I'm not. It's not that I'm doing it just to do it, but like
I was hoping you were the contrarian in the last topic, but you joined the pack. It's okay.
All right. So number one, I'm going to talk about what D-Style said, and I'm going to talk about what Joe said. So, look, it's often that when these things happen, we forget that similar things have happened in the past. So for those of you who remember, Kovalev versus Yard, that purse bid was postponed. For those of you who remember, Canelo Derevyanchenko, purse bid postponed. For those who remember the Kovalev one, actually, it was actually, sorry, I don't know if I mentioned this one yet, but Yard versus Kovalev. I think that's the first one I mentioned. That one was postponed twice, and that was a WBO title fight as well. And then obviously the one that a lot of people remember will be the Deontay Wilder against Fury rematch. That went to purse bid, and that was postponed. So no postponements to purse bids are not anything strange. They've happened in the past. Now, as for what Joe was saying, Joe, I agree with your analysis. The only reason I don't agree with it in this specific case is that I guess I'm one of the only people that listens to the Porter Way podcast, Sean Porter's podcast. He said on the Porter Way podcast, the most recent edition of it, that he wants the Crawford fight. And not only that, he also said on the Porter Way podcast that he wants to see Manny fight one last time, and that he wants to see Manny fight, take on Yordenis Ugas in a rematch. Again, that was on the most recent edition of the Porter Way podcast. So I think that Sean Porter's a relatively authentic and genuine guy. At least I will think that until he proves otherwise. Maybe he'll prove otherwise on this specific case, and then I'll be eating a whole plate of crow, which would be very weird for me because I'm a vegetarian, for those of you who don't know. But until that
serious, that means he's serious.
Yeah, until that happens, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna assume that what Sean Porter is saying is correct, And I'm going to assume that what's happening here is what happened with Yard Kovalov, with Canelo Devenchenko, with Fury Wilder 2, and that this is a postponed purse bid until further notice.
Yeah, man. And make sure you guys subscribe to Rebecca's channel, who's our guest tonight. The link is right there. I have it highlighted on the screen, but it's also in the chat. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe to that channel. I'm gonna give my thoughts here before we go into the next topic at the top of the hour. And we're at the top of the hour now, but I'm gonna say this. Look, obviously, I hate that it's been pushed back, for a couple of weeks. I know that they're saying that, look, well, we want more time to possibly negotiate to make it happen before all that. And look, that'd be great if they could make it happen without going to the, to the purse bid or whatever. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I just hope that this fight happens, man. That's really all I want, because I've been waiting to see Crawford take on one of these guys over on the PBC side ever since he got to 147 pounds. I understand he went after Jeff Horn right away because he wanted to get his hands on a belt at 147 pounds. He got that out of the way pretty quickly, but ever since then, it's been like, every single opponent. Now, the Sean Porter fight is a great fight, man. Very good fight for him, for both fighters, and it's a fresh fight at 147 pounds. No rematch, nothing like that. But, man, it's frustrating that it's taking all this to happen. And I know Virgil Ortiz has been thrown around. I see some people in the chat mentioning that as well, that if this fight doesn't happen, let's go ahead and throw Virgil in there. I've been one saying that, look, I think Virgil's ready for anybody at 147 pounds. That includes Crawford. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to win, but I believe that he can definitely go in there and fight and hang with Terrence Crawford. So if that's a consolation prize, shit, I'm down with that too, man. That's a great fight. Now Christine did mention this in the chat. She says, well, what does that really do for Crawford at this point? I mean, I kind of get why you would say that, but I would say this. I think we all could agree on this panel that if he fights Virgil Ortiz next or Sean Porter next, either one of those guys will be the best that he's fought at 147 pounds. And where am I tripping? I don't think I'm tripping. I'm sitting down, but I like either one of those fights. So again, if this fight falls through, consolation prize Ortiz, I'm good with that. 100%. Let's get it going. Over here in HCP, we don't protect the O must go around here if it has to. All right. So those are my thoughts on it, man. If anybody else has anything else they want to add before we switch to the next topic, now is your chance. If not, we'll go ahead and move forward.
Yeah, G-Funk, I just want to add, Josh Taylor's waiting in the background. He's willing to jump up to 147. So that's another huge name for Terrence Crawford. It's coming out today that Josh Taylor is bragging that he's knocked down Ugas in sparring in Las Vegas. Yeah. He's trying to demonstrate that he's got power against welterweights just by making that statement, whether it's valid or not, true or not. He's just sending a signal to the welterweight division that he's got the power that will carry up there. That remains to be seen. That remains to be seen, but that's a huge name and an in-house fight for Bob.
We're talking about sparring, right? Practice? That's what we're talking about?
Practice.
Also, Josh Taylor has a fight already scheduled in Scotland that's taking place in the fall.
Right.
So I don't think he's on the table right now.
At least
he's got a next fight. Yeah, he's got a mandatory.
He's taking Jack Catterall on.
You know why I know the fight's not going to happen? Because D-Style said it's not going to happen. Every time he jinxes a fight, it never happens. He said Spence Pacquiao. He called me up one day. He goes, Beeb, I have a feeling that Spence Pacquiao, it's probably not going to happen.
The famous phone call from D-Style, man.
Same thing
no
with
phone
Fury.
Calls, bro. All right.
Same thing with he said the same thing about Fury Wilder 3. What happened to that when it got postponed? It may not even happen now. Once he jinxes a fight, it's done. He's like Manny the Mush. Remember the movie The Bronx Tale? They stuck him in the
Mush.
That's what he does. He jinxes
when I speak, it just happens. Like, you know how Moses parted the Red Sea?
When I speak, fight, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Hey, you know what we got to
do? Like I said,
Beeb.
Lara's gonna lose like that. Boom. Warrington will win.
You know what we got to do with him now, right? Since you brought up Eddie Mush, throw him in the fucking bathroom.
Just stick him in the corner. Throw him in the fucking closet in the back room there.
Oh man! So right now we're into the second hour. We're gonna get into the Valdez topic next, but before that, we gotta give our sponsor a chance to give them their time here. So let's go ahead and check out LowerRoots.com.
I am the underdog, misjudged and overlooked. Some say I don't belong. I shouldn't be here. I can't keep up. I won't last. I'm not good enough, not well connected. I haven't paid my dues. But guess what? I don't care. I won't listen. I can't stop. I won't stop. I refuse. I know what is within me, even if you can't see it. I have more passion than skill. I have more grit than finesse. I am unafraid to fail. I am all these things, and I am more. I dream. I believe. I hustle. I struggle. I grind. I succeed. And I repeat these steps every day. It's my process. I am a creative. So, who are you?
I'm D-Style Boxing.
There you go. Shout out to LowerRoots.com. Again, the official sponsor of Hispanics Causing Panic. Go to LowerRoots.com. I don't have any of the gear on today, but I do have some of their stuff, man. But go ahead and check them out. Great stuff there. So let's get into the big topic, the big news that happened this week. All right. We just found out that not only did Oscar Valdez A sample come back dirty, but the B sample as well. As far as I know, as far as right now, there's been no ruling on whether the fight's going to take place or not, or what kind of punishment is going to happen with Oscar Valdez at this time. I'm sure we'll be hearing something soon. But I want to get everybody's reaction to this news. I'm going to start with D-Style, man. Give us your thoughts, bro. What do you think?
Well, just want to get some clarification for everybody out there. The A sample and the B sample is the same sample. They just separated in two different vials. I just want to make sure everybody understands that, okay? If it's the piss test, it's the same piss. They just separate in two different cups or whatever, right? If it's a syringe with the blood, it's one syringe and they separate in two vials. I just want to make sure everybody understands it's the same test. It's not another test, right? And the reason I'm saying that is some people were texting me, oh, Valdez passed the B sample. And I was like, man, like the only way that could happen is if the first one was a false positive. That's it, which is possible, but not very probable, right? It's extremely rare, not impossible, but extremely rare that that's the case. So there's a lot of people out on the internet, and believe me, just because it's in the internet doesn't mean it's true, that are saying that Valdez passed the B sample. No, he passed another test. Okay, from I believe 17 days later. That's a different test. Okay, the B sample, which they usually only test as kind of like a backup when you fill the A, right? They tested for that same drug and it came out positive. Okay, confirming that it's not a false positive. He did in fact test positive for the banned substance. It is a banned substance. It is something that he signed on a dotted line that he would not take, regardless of what our opinion is, whether it's effective or not, or like that's just what he agreed to. It is a diuretic from my understanding. Now, what's not really my understanding, maybe somebody else in the panel knows more than me. So I'll sit back after I say this. I keep hearing a lot of, oh, it could be a stimulant and it could be a masking agent, right? I like the terms could be used in situations like this because it insinuates that he was taking something else without any proof, right? We don't know if he took anything else. That's just, unless you actually find it, right? You can't just presuppose, well, it's a masking, it could be a masking agent, so therefore he must have taken some other stuff. Okay, he's guilty for taking this. Now, whether it's a stimulant or not, I can't really specify.
It is a stimulant. It is a stimulant.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Well, you'll go right now, but so I don't know. And then, of course, whether it could be a masking agent or not, I kind of get the point. I just think it's pushed a little too much, and it kind of gives that insinuation that he took some other stuff. I don't think it's that hard to believe that a fighter in something like boxing took a diuretic, and I'm not saying he should have, but took it to help him lose weight to make the weight, 130 pounds. These guys are cutting a lot of water weight. They're cutting a lot of weight to make these, to make weight. You know what I mean? And then they dehydrate afterwards. So that's all I wanted to say. At the end of the day, in my opinion, I think he should face some consequences for it. What that is specifically, I don't know. I just know this. It shouldn't be, in my opinion, after the fight. Because let's say he fights and then you suspend him for 6 months. Well, these guys only fight twice a year. So, like, suspending them for 6 months is kind of a moot point. That's like suspending a football player during the season for 3 days. Like, okay, well, he's still going to play on Sunday. Like, what does that even mean? So that's my opinion. I'll sit back and let.
Yeah. Look, we're already getting some things in the chat. They're saying, like, it's used for more than just a diuretic, and that Man and Water is saying the whole Canelo squad is on HGH. Like, I don't understand how you go from something that's a stimulant to an HGH. Like, they're completely different, man. Like, people really need to educate themselves on these drugs that are out there, okay? But I'm going to wait for my turn to talk about that. Maestro, give me your thoughts on this, man.
Well, whether it was used as a stimulant or whether it was used as a diuretic or whether it was used as both or whether it was used, as a remedy to ED or whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter, okay? The fact is, it's a banned substance. I don't care if the guy had migraine headaches and was using it. I don't care if he had nausea and was using it. None of that matters. It's on a banned list. It was in his system. End of story. So that's number one. Number two, it baffles me constantly how people that watch sports as much as people that tune into our channels still don't understand the concept of an A sample and a B sample. Okay. I used to compete in sports up through my completion of my undergraduate degree. I've been tested a couple times. I was also tested for a job that I used to have, funny enough. But A sample, B sample is simple. You got 2 separate containers. You start urinating in one, you finish urinating in the other. It's the same stream of pee. Okay? That's all it is. They take an A, they take a B. The only reason they take a B is in case the A is contaminated in some way or there's some issue with it or whatever the case may be. You have a backup. Okay? It's the same source drawn at the same time. So that's the second thing. The third thing is, look, it wouldn't be YouTube boxing talk if people didn't start with their conspiracy theories. Some guy in Canelo's camp takes a shit. Guess what? Canelo has diarrhea. Like, none of it. I mean, this is what guys do, unfortunately. I guess he popped for this. Therefore, Canelo popped for it. Therefore, JC Martinez popped for it. Therefore, Canelo, obviously, he's probably Andy Ruiz. I mean, Andy Ruiz and Canelo are probably taking 20 times the amount, right? I mean, look, so those are my thoughts on it. It's on a banned substance list. He should face some type of penalty for it. And I'm going to be honest, it's going to be a stain on his career because people are going to always be referencing this, just as they've referenced the clenbuterol with Canelo, and just as they've referenced the Dillian White situation that happened out in the UK before the Rivas fight. I was like, once this happens to you, you never live it down. I mean, people are still talking about Manny not liking needles. I mean, these things don't go away.
Yeah, by the way, just really quick, it's not going to go away. They're already making memes of Kermit the Frog drinking the tea. Like, so it's not going to go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Adam didn't help, in other words.
Rebecca, our special guest tonight, I want to get your thoughts on Oscar Valdez, both A and B samples coming back positive for phentermine, I believe is what it is. I'm not good with the medical terms, but yeah.
So when I first saw that it was released, I think it was August 31st, a couple days ago, the first thought that came to my head is, how do these athletes in general, it's not even just boxing, how do they think that they can get away with this stuff and think that that they can beat science? It blows my mind, because the truth always comes out, whether it's in one test, they always are covering themselves. And I mean, you can go back and forth of, oh, it's a diuretic, it's not necessarily going to help him in regards to building his strength. But if you signed on the dotted line, like I forgot who said it earlier, if you signed on the dotted, yes, D-Style, if you said, yes, I'm not going to take this, then you don't take it. And also, we have this beautiful thing called the internet, where if you're about to take something and you're like, I'm not sure if I'm not supposed to take this, we can use Google and we could see, okay, or we can go back into our contract. Even though this is an independent sport, we have a team behind us. So as a team too, I think that we should be holding each other accountable of, look, I don't think if he's doing this with his team on a team, maybe other people on his team are doing it too. I don't know if it's just a one-man band in that situation. So it's not a good look for Valdez. It doesn't matter what it is. If he signed on the dotted line that he wasn't going to take it and it shows up in his system, there needs to be consequences. We can't make exceptions, or it's just going to be a shit show for all of boxing, honestly. So
I agree 100%. And I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts. I agree. And I'm going to have to do like Mr. Rogers did back in the days when we were all young, watching the show, and he would tell you the word of the day, right? And I think in this situation, the word of the day is definitely accountability. Valdez needs to be held accountable for his actions. Okay, he knew what's on the list. Okay, Christine pointed that out earlier in the chat. She says all the fighters are given a list of substances and steroids and things like that they're not supposed to take. So they know. And with you knowing you take it, guess what? You need to suffer the consequences for your actions, okay? There is no excuses for it. None. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Now, I've already said that in my video that I made. I made a 5-minute video the other day about it when it first came out. Okay, so I'm not giving this guy a pass. Nothing like that. But I think the problem is this. Again, they want to tie it into other guys. Okay, look, you can go ahead and have fun with that if you want. But again, there's no proof. You've got no proof. I've got no proof. Okay, you're just speculating. You're just running your mouth at this point. Also, with accusing Valdez, oh, this is probably why he beat Burchelt in his last fight. Well, guess what? Him and Alacran both tested VADA for that fight. Both came back clean. So, you know, if you want to go ahead and add an assertion to that, you go ahead, okay? But we know that neither one of them got caught for anything going into that fight. Also, I want to say this before I pass the buck, okay? I keep seeing people saying that he's juiced up, right? That he's on steroids. I'm seeing memes with him with needles in his arms and things like that. Look, this is a completely different thing than taking an anabolic steroid, okay? One, it's like literally night and day, okay? Night and fucking day. You don't take a stimulant and then all of a sudden turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? That doesn't work. It doesn't work that way, okay? The man did not test positive for steroids, okay? There's a big difference, all right? He got busted for what was called I've heard people say it's a stimulant. It's something that suppresses your appetite to help you lose weight. Okay, it's a banned substance, so he's got to be punished, but it's not steroids. Okay, again, this guy's not going to just all of a sudden come out with 20-inch pythons like Hulk Hogan. Okay, that's not how it works, man. You guys want to make claims like, oh, it's a masking agent. Again, we don't know. We don't know. The only thing we know that showed up in the test is this particular substance that's banned. That's all we know at this point. So if you want to make assumptions, you want to add things, this and that, you go right ahead. But I'm just going to tell you right now, you look really ignorant saying that he's on steroids or that he's juiced up, because this is not exactly what's happening. Go ahead, Maestro.
No, I was just going to say two things to that. One, the type of steroids that people associate with bodybuilding or back in the day, like short sprinting, like 100 meters. Those aren't really even that effective for like a boxer, number one. And obviously we know they do long-term damage to various organs and stuff, but they're not effective for boxers. So it doesn't even make sense that he would take those type of PEDs. But yes,
Exactly.
this is something that would absolutely benefit a boxer because it supports weight loss. And as anyone knows, the biggest challenge that boxers face, unless they're heavyweights, is cutting weight, right? And that's what this particular stimulant allows you to do. Now, what are some of the side effects of that? Well, it increases your heart rate, amongst other things, to sometimes even dangerous levels. And people take that risk when they're doing the cost-benefit analysis of whether it makes sense to take these type of things. But two things are true. One, he tested positive for this. Two, it's definitely a stimulant that would benefit a boxer trying to lose weight.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And look, people keep trying to, again, make the comparison to anabolic steroids. And look, man, that's not, you really need to educate yourself. Okay. And it shows you, like, I've had experience with steroids. Okay. And it hasn't been for cosmetic looks. It's been for health reasons. Okay. You need to understand what the hell you're talking about. Okay. You just don't, just stop it. Okay. Dave from the 408, let me get your thoughts, bro.
Oh man, this is a hot topic, and I was hoping that I missed this one because what I've seen on Twitter, people going back and forth, I'm like, if I just say the wrong thing, man, I'm gonna get some heat. But listen, I got to give this to you from a perspective of a kid who grew up in San Francisco.
You're canceled.
A San Francisco Chicano kid that grew up at the height of the steroid era and was an all-star little league kid. I literally grew up going to Candlestick and Coliseum and watch Barry Bonds, Jose Canseco, Mark McGwire break all the records. We saw things done in baseball that we have not seen replicated. Okay. So growing up watching that, the stain that was put on the sport, I didn't have that opinion about it. I'm like, I got to witness something incredible. Yeah. We don't know how severe the problem of roiding was during that era, but it's presumed that maybe more than half of the baseball players were on testosterone.
I think Jose Canseco said 85% of the players back then were on something.
Thank you, G Funky.
Including the pitchers, by the way.
Yes.
Including pitchers, the records for saves. He came out on all the illegal substances he was on. So that whole era was tainted. So I've always assumed that every athlete at the top level, if they can gain an advantage, is going to take that opportunity. And this is what the problem with boxing is. We have multiple bodies that sanction things, and each of them go by different rules. VADA doesn't have the same rules as the World Anti-Doping Association that says you can take phentermine up till 1 day before the contest. Okay, so Valdez's attorneys use that. Hey, the World Anti-Doping Association says I can take it right up until the contest. Now he's the WBC champion, so they do their own clean boxing program. So he's got to abide by the rules of VADA, which are totally different. Look at the list. It's public information. You can go on the internet right now and go through 15 pages of PDF of banned substances. Now, from a personal perspective, I know people who have used phentermine because they prescribe this shit in San Jose, California, at weight loss clinics everywhere. We know that Latinos have problems with diabetes and obesity. It is well known. They prescribe this like candy everywhere to help you lose weight. The trick is you're only supposed to use it for 4 to 6 weeks. And if you're an obese man and you stay on it, you can get impotent. Now, I highly doubt that Oscar Valdez, a man in his 20s, wants to be impotent. Right? So the problem is, we don't do same day weigh-ins. How many UFC fights have we seen fighters in the past 2 years literally collapse on the scale? Collapse all over social media, just fall immediately after being weighed. So these fighters are under tremendous pressure to cut extreme amounts of weight. And he got caught. But I don't have that opinion that I think like, oh my God, he's going to forever carry this stain now. We really need to look at the fact that there's too many sanctioning bodies too many rules that are confusing as hell, and too much pressure to cut weight that's unnatural and dangerous. Again, phentermine is a stimulant. It is not classified as a diuretic. It's under the list of stimulants that cause, this one in particular, appetite suppressant. It's going to suppress your appetite. It's going to make you not think about food. It's going to make your heart rate increase. It's going to keep your metabolism way up. So what it's telling us is he's got a problem making the 130-pound division. That's what's really going on. He just has a problem with it. It is not an anabolic steroid. It is not testosterone. He's not trying to gain an edge by being more super manly. Okay? So what I'm really concerned about is athletes that don't need to have testosterone on unnatural levels. You hear about athletes going into the thousands where their testosterone level is well over 1,000, which is just unhuman. That's what I'm worried about. Those are the athletes that are going to kill somebody in the ring, you know? But because we have these 4 sanctioning bodies and different doping agencies, and some of them test year round, like Nonito Donaire, proud to say he tests year round, and some of them don't, it gives fighters an opportunity to cycle or to use certain drugs. I want to ask the panel this and people in the chat. Phentermine is very close to the ADHD drug Adderall. How many people do you know that take Adderall or have told you that they take Adderall? Because Adderall is legal to use in the NFL with a medical use exemption. It's called the TUE. You can be on Adderall. And ever since they allowed it, how many NFL players do you think use Adderall?
Well, I'm sure
a lot.
plenty of them do.
Yeah. A majority of NFL players are 21 to 25 years old. They have a very short life in the NFL. 3 years is the average, right? They get to use Adderall. Okay. How do we feel about Ryan Garcia claiming he has depression? Everyone rallied around him. Oh, he's got mental health issues. Let's not bash that. My brother is clinically depressed, has been in a suicide watch multiple times, takes a whole slew of drugs, and ADHD, he's prescribed Adderall. So should we make an exemption for people who legitimately have mental health issues? Should they be allowed in boxing to use Adderall? Because Adderall is like the same shit as phentermine.
But here's the thing with that, Dave, and this is what got Luis Ortiz, if you guys remember this.
Hold on, Amilcar. I just want to get
sorry.
Joe Habib's thoughts, but I want to say this to the chat. Look, nobody's given Oscar Valdez a pass. We've all said he needs to suffer the consequences, and that
Yes.
nobody's saying that. So
thank you, G-Funk. I'm not giving Valdez a pass. He is a WBC champion, which means he has to abide by the VADA clean boxing program, and he got caught for a banned substance. The list is like 15 pages long, different things from pain medication to testosterone to HGH to stimulants. He got caught. Okay, the question is, what should his penalty be? And is there a problem in boxing overall that allows these people to get away? Sometimes athletes can get away if you give them an opportunity. They will cycle in an attempt to not get caught, you know, but he has a weight issue.
But if he had a weight issue and was taking drugs under a doctor's supervision, he had the opportunity to list that, which all athletes do. Like, that's what happened to Luis Ortiz. He was taking blood pressure medication under the supervision of a doctor. And when they gave him the form asking him what medicine he was taking, he didn't list it, which is why he got caught.
You're right about that, Maestro. They do have an opportunity to list them and be public.
I think the problem here is the misconception. And I think Dave did a phenomenal job explaining the whole thing, because people are trying to make this something it's not. And they're saying, oh, this is a diuretic, and Dave is 100% correct. It's not a diuretic. And then people are saying, oh, well, if he took this, he's trying to hide something else. No, that's like saying just because you caught someone with marijuana, automatically they're a cocaine addict. No, there's no correlation between the two. So I think Dave made some great points, and I'm just going to piggyback off some of them too, because people are trying to classify this as a performance enhancing drug, making this an advantage for him in terms of performance in the fight, which actually this could hurt somebody. This is, if you're not obese and this is not prescribed to you, right, then this could actually hurt you. If you're training and your heart rate's already going up, and then you're taking this alongside hard training, and you're forcing your body to work harder than it normally wants to work, and you're screwing up your hormones, your adrenaline, your epinephrine, all that shit that's going on in your body, then you're taking your body out of homeostasis, you're releasing all this cortisol. This is designed just for him to make weight. This isn't making him a better fighter. This can actually make him a worse fighter because of all the stress that it's putting on his body. And some of these drugs are banned not because they're a performance enhancer, but because they're not safe to take, because they can hurt people.
Facts.
So this is banned because it's not safe. And even doctors are very wary of prescribing this to patients because, recently doctors move away from this drug. This is a very serious drug. All right. So this is not making him a better fighter. This is not making him perform better. This is actually hurting him. It's putting more stress on his body, and it's causing him to lose weight unnaturally. Now, is it giving him an advantage in losing weight over a fighter who's trying to do it naturally? Yes. But again, he's kicking the shit out of his central nervous system. So when you say stimulant, yeah, you're stimulating your central nervous system. You're not stimulating glycogen production. You're not stimulating performance. You're not increasing testosterone, as G Funky said, right? So all you're doing is you're making your body lose weight unnaturally. So yes, he broke the rules, but let's not take this somewhere where it doesn't have to go. Oh, he's masking something else. That's bullshit. Diuretics aren't even a great masking agent because drugs will stay in your system as long as they stay in your system, right? Certain drugs, they'll stay in there longer, right? Other drugs won't. It's just the way it is. So everyone wants to, make these false accusations about the guy that he cheated, and it's giving him an unfair advantage in terms of, strength, speed, and endurance and all this. No, this is actually hurts him. And this drug is banned because it's not safe. It's not because it enhances an athlete's performance. It's not safe.
Exactly. 100%, man. And again, people in the chat, they're just not going to get it. I see some guy going on and on about, oh, come on, guys, come on, it's a PED, and all. So look, man, I'm gonna say this to you guys. Look, I'm a big baseball fan. Obviously, I keep referring to my Giants. By the way, best team in baseball right now. But back in 2004, we had one of the best American League Championship series of all time. We had the Red Sox versus the Yankees. Big rivalry, right? Yankees go up 3-0 on the Red Sox. Red Sox do the impossible. No team ever comes back from that deficit. They come back, win 4 straight, go on to the World Series to win, right? Now, Game 6 in Yankee Stadium, starting pitcher, Curt Schilling, right? The man had a ruptured tendon in his right ankle as a pitcher, right? Now, he goes out there, pitches the game of his life, right? He has blood seeping through his socks because of the surgery he just had on his ankle. But you know what? The man had a cortisone shot before the game. Now, I want to ask you guys this and everybody in the chat. Am I right or am I wrong? But cortisone is a steroid. Yes or no?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is anybody going to call Curt Schilling that he cheated that game? Should the Yankees get the win that game? Should they take away the World Series from the Red Sox? The man took a steroid. Okay?
Yeah.
So you guys really need to educate yourselves on what a steroid is. A steroid is it's a synthetic hormone that your body naturally makes on its own. But it's synthetically made in a lab, okay? That's not what Valdez took. Let's stop the bullshit out there, okay?
People don't understand steroid, G-Funky. And the other thing, it's a great point that you made. Steroids can be steroids without being PEDs, which is what a lot of people understand. Yeah. I have asthma. I grew up with asthma. I use an inhaler. That's a steroid. Is it a performance-enhancing drug? No, it's not. Not unless I'm probably using it, 10 times an hour for 16 hours a day, which nobody does. So yeah, not all steroids are PEDs, and not every PED is a steroid. And people just got to educate themselves before they start engaging in slander, man.
If I could say this, and I think the reason we're seeing a lot of this confusion is because of the boxing media, okay? too many boxing journalists keep repeating that this could be a masking agent to hide other performance-enhancing drugs. That's an insinuation that he's taking other stuff without any proof.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
If you don't catch the other stuff, you can't insinuate it. Like, it's not that hard to believe that he took this to help him cut weight, right?
Yeah.
It just isn't.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe he doesn't want to dehydrate himself too much, and he wants his drug to help him. And I don't think he should be doing that. I think everyone has said that he signed the dotted line, and he got caught, and he should be punished for it. Everyone agrees with that, okay? Yeah. But at the end of the day, look, it's all about technicalities. Like, technically speaking, Floyd Mayweather was able to use IV before his fight with Manny Pacquiao, right, to help him with his dehydration. Now, technically speaking, he got a therapeutic use exemption, but he was trying to do the same shit Valdez is trying to do. At the end of the day, it's accomplishing the same thing.
Yeah, I agree, man. And again, people are just going to say what they're going to say, but look, again, steroids are synthetic hormones that are given to people that need them. All right. Like, look, if a woman fighter, right, is on birth control, guess what? That's a steroid too. Some of you guys don't realize that, though. Birth control is made of women's hormones. Okay. Educate yourself. All right. Please. But now, I did get the news that the fight is actually still going to happen. But I'm very surprised at that. Very surprised.
You know what the problem was when this news was first released? Coppinger first released and said it was a diuretic, and he made the error, and then he had to backtrack and say it was a stimulant. So
and the diuretic implies that it is a masking agent, and it's not on that drug. Amphetamine is not on the diuretic list. It is on the stimulant list.
Well,
correct.
You know what they say, Joe, right? And I'm gonna adjust it for this circumstance. The cap is halfway around the world before the truth has tied his shoes. You know what I mean?
You're right.
I mean, once it's out of the bag, I mean, it's out there, and then you know how YouTube and the other social media platforms are.
Listen, the tremendous pressure that Oscar Valdez, after just winning that fight in dramatic fashion against Burchell, which he tested clean for, that he's having a homecoming fight in near Tucson, Arizona, his hometown, to lose his championship on the scale is probably going through his mind. And this is probably why he cycled for 4 to 6 weeks on this diet pill. This diet pill that he's like, I'm not going to lose my belt, my title on the scale. I don't condone him using the banned substance. Maybe he shouldn't get so fat, or maybe he needs to move up to the next weight class. Yeah. But again, there's also going to be a discussion later that we have to talk about, is the fact that a lot of these drugs that are on these lists are actually performance recovery drugs for the injuries that athletes get. And they're actually pushing to add more things like peptides that help athletes get over injuries much, much faster. Some of them that science is starting to show, these peptides can dramatically increase your healing time over surgeries and injuries. That could be really beneficial to a fighter who sustains hand injuries, shoulder injuries, but they want to ban those too. The same way they've banned marijuana that disproportionately targets Black and Latino athletes.
Yeah, it's gotten out of control.
To see the fastest woman in America not be able to participate in the Olympics because she used marijuana for depression. Man, that bothered me. That really bothered me.
That's tough.
I'm sorry if it bothered me. You know, I just don't think a plant should be on the list. How is the plant on a PED list?
You're 100% accurate.
Yeah, it's tough, man. But I feel like we cooked on this pretty good.
That's a hot topic.
Let's move on to the next topic.
That's already burning over here. Like,
yeah. Anybody want to come see G Funky about anything I had to say today? You can come on Monday's show, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Ask for a link. You'll get a link, and you can come on and speak to me. All right. So the last topic here that I want to touch on before we close things up, and I'm going to start with the man who did a video about this today, with the Jermall Charlo incident with him at the bar, and Beeb, you covered Charlo's side of the story. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you, my man. Let us know what's up, man.
I had to do it because no one else was doing it. Everyone was, me and my partner Eric Lauder had a very heated discussion on Sunday on this. And Eric wasn't trying to hear anything. He was like, the guy's a loudmouth. We saw how he acts at press conferences. I could see him doing all those things he was accused of. But what he failed to tell you on Sunday was that they did put a fraud alert on his card, which he admitted. And he went and called his bank, and the fraud alert was removed from the card. But then when he went back and had the waitress go run the card again, she went in the back, and she comes back and tells him she lost the card. So how's he supposed to pay the tab if you lose his card? And that card was attached to a checking account or some type of a bank account that he had that had a large sum of money on it. So he was upset. And the video showed that he was yelling and he put his hands up in the air. Okay, does that mean he's assaulting people and knocking people out? Does that mean he's a felon? That he's a burglar? He's a thief? No. So we gonna put that label on him because he was angry because this waitress lost his debit card? So he grabbed his license out of the binder, right? Because he said to the waitress, "I don't want you to lose my my license now too." And then also, his lawyer talked to the owner of the bar, and the bar owner was willing to drop the charges, but the police still went ahead with it because they saw the video and they made their decision based off what they saw on the video, right? So then they issue the warrant, right, on I think it was July 16th, and it wasn't processed until August 25th. So it took 6 weeks for them to process the warrant. So a warrant could take anywhere from 3 hours to 3 weeks or 3 months, whatever. But if this was a serious issue, you best believe that warrant would have been expeditiously processed. But this was not. So to me, this whole thing was blown out of proportion. And also too, they ushered him out of the club because people were gathering around him and a scene was being made. So they took him out. Someone from the club ushered him out. And then someone came back from his camp and they tried to pay the tab with another credit card, and they refused to take the card. So in my estimation, this was totally overblown. This was clout chasing at its finest, in my opinion, because it was Jermall Charlo. They wanted to run the guy's name through the mud. They wanted to make a big deal about it, right? And I even suspect that maybe this waitress was trying to cash in on this whole situation by embellishing what went on, right? I think she was embellishing the whole thing. I don't think he assaulted her by trying to grab his license back. That's assault. Because he raised his voice, that's assault. Because he threw his hands up in the air, that's assault. So I think they're overreaching here. And I think when it's all said and done, all the charges will be dropped and thrown out. And this was all for nothing, in my opinion. This was just, all this does is just drag his name through the mud and makes him look bad. Now, did he lose his temper? Yeah. Did he throw his hands up in the air? Yeah. Did possibly he react poorly to it? Yeah. But that's not a felony. Being a loudmouth and being a jerk isn't a felony from where I come from, right? You don't face 20 years in prison for just raising your voice and being a jerk. So let the crime, the punishment fit the crime, right? So if you don't like how he acted, that's all well and good. You tell him to leave the club. But he didn't steal anything because the card was able to be used after the fraud alert was removed, but you lost the card. So that's your fault. That's the bar's fault. That's the waitress's fault. Simple and plain.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Beeb over here, like we got a Perry Mason comment in the chat. Beeb, like Columbo, man, he's on the case, But I'm gonna go to Rebecca here, and what do you make of this story with Charlo and the waitress and the bill and the cards and all that good stuff? What are your thoughts on it?
If Jermall Charlo's name was Joe Schmo, this would not even be remotely talked about. It's in the grand scheme of things, such a minuscule thing. We have to understand it was a bar setting. So I think that if someone has some alcohol in the system, they're raising their voice. He's a tough looking guy. He's a professional fighter. I could see how a female could be a little intimidated by that and go more on the defense of rather be safe than sorry. Maybe she didn't know who he was. Maybe she knew who he was and saw the name and maybe embellished on it. I don't know. We don't know. And there's always going to be three sides. There's going to be his side, her side, and the truth. And from what I've seen from the articles that I've read, I haven't seen the video. This is just something to make another excuse to talk shit about a fighter. And other fighters that want to fight him are going to use this as an excuse of, oh, you're broke. You know, you know what, if you really were that broke, if you couldn't afford to go out that night, you know what, fight me so you can make some money. I mean, it's all to just shit talk at this point. And like Khabib said, if it really was that big of a deal, that warrant would have been written and delivered a lot sooner than 3 weeks after. So people are going to talk. It's boxing Twitter. It's a different breed. I think it'll just I think we'll just move on soon. It's just another thing to talk about for the time being, and next week it'll be something different.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird story. You know, I gotta admit, when I first seen it, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna just run with this, you know, but it's definitely a peculiar situation. Maestro, I want to know what you think, man. Well, on Charlo's side of the story.
Well, I'll be honest with you. As a black man, it's not that odd, to be honest. When things get blown out of proportion and people see you for something that they think you are, when, you know, you do everything that you can not to be that stereotypical thug, and we all know what that means. Look, I spoke to Joe about this on the phone, I think the day after it was, you know, all going hot through the press. And I said, I don't buy it, but I'm not going to speak about it until I hear at least two sides of the story. And now that I've heard the two sides of the story, I'm going to double down on what Rebecca said and double down on what Joe said. There's two things that happen here. You have a black man who also happens to be a celebrity, and one thing led to another, and things are blown out of proportion. And then one of his entourage members, I believe, maybe pushed up sideways as he was leaving. And I guess that's now an assault. I mean, none of it made sense to me when I was hearing it. And now that I've heard Jermall Charlo's side of the story, I mean, everything that he's saying sounds entirely reasonable, and everything that he's saying is something that you could see happening, and something that you could see any person doing who was just told that, wait, your card is being run and it's not working, and then he goes and resolves the situation. Then he goes back and his credit card, actually debit card, is now lost. And that's another thing. Guys, don't go out and pay for things with your debit card. Your debit card is attached to your bank account. Your bank account is where your money is held. Whenever you want to go out, use your credit card. That money is attached to the bank's money, or that card is attached to the bank's money. If anything happens, you can dispute it. If you try to dispute a debit card issue, I'm telling you right now, that shit does not go good. That shit does not go good.
6 months sometimes.
Yeah, and you may or may not get your money back.
Yeah.
Unless you can like prove that, you know, it was in another country and you weren't in that country. Yeah. Try proving that your debit card was used fraudulently in your home state and it wasn't you, and they somehow knew your PIN number and all kinds of other stuff. That ain't gonna go right. So it never made sense to me at the beginning. You know, I stayed out of it because I didn't want to comment on it, as Joe didn't, until we heard what happened from another point of view. And again, I agree with everything Rebecca and Joe said.
Yep. D-Style, what do you think, man?
So look, a couple of things. When I first read this story and the headline read, I forget which website it was, it said, Jermall Charlo arrested for stealing money from a waitress. Now, look, I used to work in the restaurant industry when I was a teenager. And like, I remember like the highest I ever saw a waitress in a day make, which a good amount of money, was like 500 and something, right? Do you really think a 6-figure, 7-figure fighter is going to be stealing $500? Let's say she had 1,000. You really think she's going to steal? You think a 6-figure, 7-figure fighter is going to risk being arrested, not to mention all the bad press and everything, for a couple of $100 for $1,000? Does anyone really believe that? Like it doesn't make it impossible. I found it hard to believe. Okay, that's the first thing. So I'm a skeptic by nature. So when I first heard this story, I said this doesn't sound right. And I've actually I've had bad experiences with my debit card at places. Okay, where I handed my card, and they came back and had over $1,000 of charges. And I noticed the next day, like from Brazil or something, I'm like, well, what the hell's going on over here? And I had to call the bank. And fortunately, I have a good bank and it got resolved. But this was before the chip. This was before banks were really, really on, identity fraud and stuff like that. They're really on it now. When I went to Seattle a couple years ago, they have a feature where I could tell them, okay, on this day I'm going to be in Seattle. That way, when I make a purchase in Seattle, it's not like some like why is this dude from El Paso, Texas, buying things in Seattle, Washington, right? So I've experienced some similar things like that before. Now I don't want to, since everyone's throwing out conspiracy theories, look, I don't know, like Charlo doesn't know what this waitress tried to do with the card. Why did he come up with some fraud alert? He doesn't know if they try to do some funky business with it. What if they took a picture of the card, front and back? What if they did? Like me and the milk car spoke about off camera. What if they did that? You don't know what they did with the card. So you think you're telling me right now, y'all, if it's a waitress lost your card, you just be okay with it? Okay, no problem. It happens, No. Okay, you don't lose the card if that's crazy. Okay, like it just is. That's like a surgeon doing heart surgery that took out your liver. Okay, like, well, what do you mean you took out my liver? I'm here for heart surgery. If you're a waitress, you have one job: hold on to the damn card. You lost the card. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. At that point, how do you want it to pay if she lost the card? She lost the card. You're surprised that he left the building without paying? I mean, come on. Now, the other thing, so he grabbed his license. I'm assuming she had the license because maybe he was making a large payment or they asked for it because the card was declined, whatever it is. But he took his license from her, right? What's totally possible is that when he took it, right, and left the building, it's not out of the question that a waitress that, by the way, all waitresses and waiters I know, they never report what they really made to taxes. Okay. So what I'm saying is it's probably possible she could have just told her boss, like, I had $500 of tips today. And then he took it. You got to give me my $500, whatever it is. We don't know what it is. Like at the end of the day, from my understanding, they tried to pay them later that night, and they declined. Okay, from my understanding, the restaurant or club, whatever it is, okay, said they don't want to press charges, but the police is insisting on pressing charges. Okay, so at the end of the day, I found this hard to believe from jump. Look, I understand everyone's reservations about Jermall and all that. Okay. I get it, but at the end of the day, the dude's not a thief. Okay. At the end of the day, he didn't need to steal some money from a waitress. Okay. People that steal that's a petty crime. That's like people that walk out of restaurants, and it's usually like it's not somebody that makes 6 to 7 figures a fight. Okay. Those are not the type of people that walk out on restaurants. Those are not the people that steal money from waitresses. Right. It just isn't. By the way, let me just say this as well. Think about it. They're inside the building. If he took the book or the cash from the waitress, they're just going to let him walk out with the money? That's not going to happen. It's just she's going to yell, hey, he's taking my money. There's a whole club in there. It's not going to happen. So that's all I have to say.
G Funky, I just want to address somebody in the chat real quick. I was reading back on the comments.
Uh-oh.
The GOAT Mario P, he says, stop it. at Maestro that BS. And then he says, Charlo using the black victim card. That's all I don't believe his side of the story for a second. Okay, I mean, stop what? I mean, there's a case of a woman here in New York City that's facing charges, or I think she's already charged, because she called the police on a black man in Central Park who was bird watching. Yes, black men are allowed to bird watch, just like white men are allowed to bird watch. But apparently, no. If you're a black man in bird watching, you get called. You get the police called on you. You got squad cars turning up. You got guys ready to shoot you. What the fuck are you talking about? Stop it, Maestro. What fucking world do you live in, bro? Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you saying that in a situation where a black man is being accused of something by a white woman, that in the world we live in, that that's not an issue? Is that what you're saying? Come on, man. You keep it real and stop the BS.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a weird.
Do we even have to go down the list? Do we even have to go down the list of incidences that have happened over the last decade? Do we really have to do that?
Seriously, I'm not even talking about the times that brothers have lost their life. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just talking about cases where people are doing normal behavior, but because you're a black man, you're a criminal. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I agree, man. Dave, give your quick thoughts, man, because we're approaching the 2-minute mark, and we're gonna wrap this thing up, man.
I read this on TMZ Sports, and I thought I just shaked my head and said, you know what, this makes total sense. He's a hothead. You see him backstage. He's so entitled. He probably did this, right? But now hearing what these facts I hadn't heard that Beeb presented, I'd be entirely pissed off about that check card thing, because like D-Styles, I've been a victim of that. I've done something stupid and gone to a fancy chain restaurant, and like a week later, there's over $1,000 missing in my account. Not to mention that they asked for his ID. That's another great way to steal someone's identity. There could have been something shady going on. And I could totally see why he would have exploded in rage. He just has that problem. There's two sides of the story. I bet this thing will get dropped by the local prosecutors. It seems like it's not even worth prosecuting and wasting taxpayers' money over.
I agree.
By the way, Rebecca's cup is like the real MVP.
Wow.
Let's go.
Man, that's like the crystal skull right there. Look at that thing. You know?
That's Skeletor from the Power of Grayskull.
How many ounces does that hold? Two giant beers?
I have no idea, but it's perfect for hydration. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
So hydration.
Hey guys, this has been one hell of a roundtable. I want to thank everybody who was watching live and everybody that joined. Everybody here has channels, okay? All you got to do is just look at their names on the.
If you don't mind, Rebecca, can you tell everybody where they can find you really quick?
Yes.
So you can find me on Instagram at Inside the Ring Official, or my personal page at Rebecca Ruber. I just started getting on YouTube. You can just search up Inside the Ring Official, where I post little clips from my podcast, which is Inside the Ring with Rebecca Ruber, which streams on Apple, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.
There you go. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow her wherever she's at. And she was a great guest tonight. Thank you for coming on. Maestro, real quick, last thoughts, man, because we're almost out of time here.
Last thoughts. Salute to the panel. It was great to have Rebecca on with us here today. You know, it's always nice to have a breath of fresh air on the round table. You know, Joe Habib, glad you came on. All right, better late than never. Great insights as always. Same to you, Dave, from the 408. No round table today. I mean, OT today. No round table OT. I have something I need to get up super early for tomorrow, but we'll be back next week, and I'll try to do a stream tomorrow to make up for it. So tune in for that one. Can't wait until I see Joe Habib's next stream on the Porter Crawford debacle. So yeah, thank you, D-Style. Thank you, everybody. It's been a great episode of the Round Table.
Yeah. So Beeb, let us know your final thoughts, man.
Well, we got a good week coming up. I'm looking forward to the DAZN card. you know, and the reason why, like I spoke out about this Jermall Charlo thing is there's enough negativity going around in the sport of boxing without people having to create more of it when it doesn't exist, right? So let's not make stuff out of nothing, and let's stop hating on these fighters. And if you're a true boxing fan, let's be a boxing fan and just stop promoting the hate and the negativity about the sport. Let's support these fighters. Let's support the sport. And let's just be good people and do the right thing, man.
Absolutely. Dave from the 408, let us know your final thoughts and let everyone know where they could find you, man.
Yeah, definitely. You guys could check out the Shoe Shine on that link I just dropped. I'll put it one more time. And I had Jesus Ramos, who has been on you guys' HCP. We did a great interview with him. He fights this Sunday at 5 o'clock Pacific on Fox PBC. And listen, he's one of the hottest under 21 prospects, like Xander Zayas, are making their debut back-to-back at 154 pounds. Now, we're talking about guys who can't make weight and cutting weight and using – these kids are just – they're just getting really, really strong. So both of them are moving up from welterweight to junior middleweight. So watch out for both those guys back-to-back weekends.
Yeah. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Shoe Shine right here on YouTube. Subscribe to Ringside Reporter, D-Style Boxing, Maestro A Boxing, and also Rebecca's channel, which has been posted in the chat multiple times. So make sure that you subscribe. And also, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to G-Funk. You know, subscribe to my channel. You know, if you're feeling nice, all right. But yeah, this has been great, and I want to thank everyone for being here. And we will see you guys on the next roundtable. We're out.